open into a Q&A to the audience, but before we do, I'll maybe get the ball rolling with a question or two. So you were just telling myself and Sarah upstairs about your latest art exhibition with Pete Doherty. So didn't hear too much, and it's something I'm sure the audience would be interested in if you'd like to elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, I'm doing our exhibition about a week's time with Pete Doherty and Adam Green. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And are you allowed to reveal anything about what your project is? Or
well, I'm painting sort of, it's like the newspaper of my life. It's sort of done on newsprint. So it's just abstract madness.
And where will it be exhibiting?
It's in Hoxton, gallery in Hoxton.
In terms of your music, you've been compared to Bob Dylan and Neil Young by critics. So I know this is a bit of a cliche question, but who would be your musical influences, or do you consciously avoid taking inspiration from others?
Yeah, I mean, both those people would be, massive sort of North Stars or something like that, people that I look up to. I think a lot of the influence comes from my own sort of life, and that's why when you have to sort of perform it every night and do it every night, it starts to become quite a weight to carry, but a beautiful weight.
In terms of music, do you have a favourite guitarist or anything like that, or a favourite music player?
I know a lot of. I like the way Neil Young was so. He just played his own furrow, and he kind of, it seems like if there was some sort of ancient apprenticeship that I come in on the same train as he does. And is that the sort of thing where you stick to your guns and your audience either legs it or they duck, the ones who duck and stand back up are your mate.
Sure.
And the ones who leg it, see you later.
At this point, would anyone in the audience like to ask a question? Any brave souls who have anything to offer?
The big problem facing musicians is probably inspired for that. How do you come across this yourself, and how do you overcome it?
I think, it's one of those things you're almost superstitious to talk about it in a way. But I seem to, it's the what happens when I finish writing something, what happens from then on, where music meets the landscape of business. Those kind of things have been more of a challenge than the actual writing, because the way that I make records, the way that things come together is I don't do it via a committee. And when you make that decision, then things can get a little bit rougher than you might have bargained for. But I think there's always something to write about, and there always seems to be, so I suppose what I'm trying to say is sometimes, even though I didn't maybe believe in it, I do think sometimes somebody else has a sort of a hand in the best things that you do. It feels like there's something greater going on than you can understand. So I think really what I'm trying to say is that most of the better things that I think I've done, I don't really remember writing. And the things that I remember writing, I'm kind of, on the fence about sometimes. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is that it's maybe not writing is the way to avoid what you're talking about.
Your songs often evoke, they're almost like storytelling, they kind of evoke stories and emotions. Would you consider yourself a poet, or do you think that there's a distinction between writing music lyrics and writing poetry?
Well, I do, like, a lot of the times the great thing about poems, when you write a poem, it's so immediate, your means of production is just a pen and paper.
Mm-hmm.
When you write a song, there's, you know, a huge journey that you have to take from the time that you write a song to the time that it goes out into the world, and there's loads of decisions that you have to make. But so far, a lot of the times, even when I do write a poem, I end up, it's like a Frankenstein job. I rip, you know, good lines out of it and stick them into songs.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a way, some things start as poems, turn into songs. But, you know, I think eventually I will, you know, I'd like to have maybe a book of 10 poems or something, just something simple that is completely different and that I focus on without, you know, ripping parts out of it to put into songs or whatever. So, you know, I might have 2 or 3 poems that I've never touched as songs, so maybe they're poems, maybe I'm a poet. Well, not published poems.
Would anyone else in the audience like to ask a question this time? There's someone over there. Yep.
The critical reception of each of your albums is quite different. How do you think that you would like responded then to like communicate that, your direction and things like that?
Do I have I responded to?
Yeah, would you say it shapes you like the direction you headed in, like as like
a response to criticism?
Yeah.
No. I mean, you know, I think it's like what I said before. I think you have to. There is some sort of lightning rod inside you that you have to try and keep your hand on, regardless of the external things that are going on. But I think when it comes to reviews and that kind of thing, it's nice when the horses come in, you know?
Rhys Ifans, the actor, has a tattoo of the lyrics, Be Good or Be Gone.
Yeah.
Do you kind of take stock of like this kind of flattery or of fans, or are you kind of creeped out by fan culture? Do you have any weird experiences of anything that fans have done?
You know, it's like I get quite a lot of mad letters with people think that I'm reincarnation of their second dead dog and stuff like that. And a lot of that stuff at the start flipped me out a bit.
Sure.
I wasn't really prepared for that kind of stuff. And like even when the invitation for this came in, I thought some madman might have doctored a template or something, you know? I couldn't believe it. I was like,
Did you make a conscious choice to become a musician, or was it just always what you had to do?
Well, you know, I think I was lucky enough in the sense that there was enough music around in the air, and I suppose I had a sort of, it's something that it's like what they say, what you focus on grows, you know? I think I had some sort of connection to playing the piano, reach up and play the piano, and I feel like I was connected to something else that I wasn't somewhere else. Sort of a calm come over you. And then nylon string guitar and the electric guitar, and then, you know, it's like, just start going, playing it like that, and you'll have the tongue go ding, 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 and then you get a little bit better.
What's the first song that you ever wrote? Or can you remember?
Oh, I can't remember. A lot of this stuff was quite. I had it's the same way that I do now. Is like a notebook, tape recorder. I still do that. Mm-hmm. So I write things and I record some music, and then sometimes they meet. You know, I can't really remember first thing. Speaking of Reese fans, I had a big Welsh flag on the wall. Like, I remember writing songs about that, about the dragon.
It's a bit symbolic then.
Yeah.
Does anyone else in the audience, would you like to ask a question?
Hi, this is just on performance. I'm wondering, do you ever get overwhelmed by the responsibility of entertaining the audience, and like how do you engage with them and calm yourself and connect?
Yeah, well, you know, as we were talking about touring earlier on, we were walking over, and after maybe a year on the road or something like that, we start to see fireworks, and it's not Halloween, you know it's time to take a couple of days off.
Would anyone else like to ask a question?
Is there any music from when you were a kid that you think you love back then, and now you're kind of embarrassed with Jesus kind of like?
Oh, well, I suppose it's all pleasure in a way. No, I think, you know, especially with I think this is my first gold. But I think it feels like even the intention of getting this, it feels pure, and it feels like it's given for the right reasons, and I think it proves that music is important if you're creating it or listening to it. You know, when I think back of any sort of music that, the first sort of music I was into was punk, and psychobilly music like Coffin Nails and the Koala Bats and all these mad bands. And I'm still sort of into that, you know, like I'm into the energy and the fact that you can make something, you don't need a lot to make something happen. And even flamenco, like the Spanish guitar stuff, that's pretty punk, a lot of that stuff. It's a certain kind of spirit. Piano book, and I learned Blowing the Wind and Beatles songs. The first songs I remember, like Blowing the Wind, maybe like Hide Your Love Away, stuff like that. I know that doesn't answer your question.
Does anyone else have a question?
Sorry, my voice a bit gone.
Yeah,
would you recommend it to somebody if somebody were to ask you, like, I also want to be the big music star? Should I go for it? Would you recommend it to somebody, or like, is the business? Have you found it to be tough?
Well, yeah, no doubt. It's I've had my moments, but yeah, I think I think it's whatever you love doing, and if it gives you a bit of a laugh, I think that why not do it, but I think it's everything that you dream about, or anything in a sort of the landscape of some sort of fantasy, is very different to the reality I found. So you kind of have to take these things into consideration.
How have you felt when your music is being used in maybe a more commercial arena, like similar to Codeine and Snow Patrol? You were featured on Grey's Anatomy. Are you conscious of your music being played in those contexts, or on big TV shows or advertisements?
Yeah, you know, I think if there's anything that sort of raises a flag, like I think for me, the sort of landscape that I'm in or whatever, you know, the way that I write, the abstraction of what I do, you know, I mean, it was pretty mind-blowing that against, you know, sort of all the odds and, you know, I mean, from a point of view of where it came from, very far left, my first record, and it came into, met a much bigger audience, which was sort of a bit of a mad thing, you know, and I think at the moment it feels like that opportunity is becoming less and less. It's becoming slightly more, there's no conspiracy, but it's the belt is tightening on it, and things that come from this side in, which is always the sort of rebellious excitement about the thing. So when, you know, people want to play your song and it raises the flag for something that's over here, you know, you can't really throw your hat in the ground and stamp on it.
Sure. Would anyone else like to ask a question? Yeah.
Are there any other artists out there today that you would like?
Is there
Any other artists out there today that you would like?
artists that I admire? A lot. At the moment, I'm sort of living in the head of a painter. So I'm into, I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm into a lot of this sort of abstract expressionist painters and that kind of thing. That's sort of what I'm focused on at the moment. In a way, I think it's that sort of thing where if you spend enough time in your own sort of company, in your own head, music and things start to present themselves, you know, instead of maybe listening to too much. That's sort of where I am at the moment.
Anybody else?
Do you think that you know, if you were painting or you were writing music or playing music, do you think you do those two things for the same reason? Do they kind of both fulfill something similar in you, or do you see them as like very different exercises?
Yeah, well, it's like what I was saying about poems. With painting, I can do, you know, maybe 3 a day on a good day. Maybe, you know, sometimes it's like 3 a week or whatever, but when it's done, it's done. You know, with a record, you do a demo, then you go, well, I put a tambourine on this, or, you know, then you go, well, then we have to master it, then we, you know, we have to mix it, master it, do an album cover. Where paint is very immediate. So in a way, it's sort of like, it's like it has the feeling of a demo, but it's the final product, you know. And I think at the moment with painting, I'm able to say, I think I'm able to, like, some of the paintings that I'm doing are kind of with writing and stuff, I'm able to say things very quicker, maybe more directly or something.
What's your favourite song that you wrote, that you've written? Would you have a favourite?
I mean, that's a tricky question. I don't know, I suppose it's like some of the songs that, trying to remember the name. There's a song on the last record called The Gouldings, and that kind of has sort of captured something that I can't quite explain, and when I play it, it feels like it brings me into this place, you know. So that's, I suppose, because it's a new song, it's a new kind of, but I don't know. And then maybe a song like going back, like a song like Hunter's Map, has something captured to it that I don't quite know where that comes from.
And is there any songs that you had a particularly difficult time with, or you you had a huge block, or there was a struggle to kind of get to the end and get it right?
Yeah, because I have a song called, I won't say it's a struggle because it's always a joy, you know. It's, you know, it's a massive privilege to be able to get out every morning and paint and write songs, you know. So it's like, it's no struggle, you know.
Sure.
Like, you have to remember that. But yeah, one or two songs, like the song in the Lake District. That was a poem that I tried to shoehorn into a song.
Okay.
And, you know, sometimes I think it might be just better a poem.
Unpublished.
An unpublished poem and with less iambic pentameter.
Great. Is there any more questions from the audience? Yeah, right on.
Talking about, you spoke about composing earlier with the way that you still use a tape recorder or something like that. Do you find that generally that you come up with music and lyrics together, or would one generally come before the other?
Yeah, I don't. It's interesting because it's like I was saying with some of the things that I think have a natural flow to them that don't seem to be written. I can't remember, and then there's things that I can remember where I kind of I love that, but there's something about it because I can remember too much about writing it. But it's like seasons. You have melodic seasons and then seasons of words, and then sometimes they work together, and then other times you have to maybe go back and listen to a tape, hear a melody. I mean, it's the whole thing's a strange sort of alchemy, the way it all comes together. You know, in a way, you know, even talking about it too much starts to freak you out, you know? You feel like you find a loose brick and the whole thing will come down over your head. Alright.
Are there any another question from the audience members? Yeah.
Beautiful and you guys are in the dream, just studying.
Thank you.
You know, you must have read a lot, or did what writers particularly find your poets. You focus often on the musicians, but sometimes it's the words.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the sort of thing where I've done maybe a fair bit of reading at a certain point, but it's kind of like it's like people pushing a car till it takes off, you know. You do a bit of reading and I wish that I go down to, you know, well, even when I used to go on the hop from school, I used to go to the ILAC Centre, the library. So I was on the hop, but I was thinking ahead. You know? And even there I'd read bits of, I think poems were the first thing that were a bit like a light bulb going off in my head. There's something, even when I read a poem now, I sort of, if I read something, I know, it could be anything like Jack Kerouac or whoever it is, Carl Sandburg or something like that. When I read something, then I feel like sometimes it happens to me. I go, right, that's what I'm supposed to be. And then because I like action, and I don't know if I could live in a gate lodge and smoke a pipe, and I have this ability to write songs. I want to go out on the road and do all that sort of jazz, you know.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, your last album started with the Bunkhouse Volume 1,
Yeah.
but I have heard talk that it may be your last release. Do you have plans to kind of continue on with the idea of the Bunkhouse in other ways, like through your art or through work with other artists?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what I said about people were asking, "Is it going to be volume 2?" And I was like, I was saying that maybe it was a subconscious gag or something that there's no such thing as a volume 2.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be volume 2. It feels like that last record I got to the end of a cycle of some sorts, and now, you know, and even this feels like it's arrived at a time where I'm moving into a new place. I'm not completely sure, like the dust hasn't settled. I don't exactly know what direction I'm going in. I know that this year I was like, I'll do some painting, and then something stepped in for something to happen with painting. I mean, like, everything's sort of happened like that. I wanted to paint for a while. I wanted to do something with some of the paintings that I somehow came together like that. So I think with the Fionn Regan singer-songwriter thing, it's, you know, it's sort of like I'm waving it off, but it might be back.
Does anyone else have a question that they would like to ask? No? Well, I might wrap things up with a more general question. So you said that you take a lot of inspiration from your life, and obviously being from Ireland, what would be your favourite thing about Ireland and Irish culture, and what is your least favourite thing about Ireland and Irish culture?
Well, it's, you know, it's that thing when I was on the way here. I was talking to a taxi driver about, I was just in Valencia, and I was like, oh yeah, they've really got it set up right over here, you know. You get into the groove of a different place, and then when you come back, you're like, oh, you know, it's great to be back. You know, there's something about Ireland, about the weather, the air, the seasons, that it's some sort of a magnet in it, and it's just the environment that I've grown up in. So, you know, it's part of you. You know, the whole thing's part of you. So, you know, you can only, you know, your next question, you can only, you know, it's almost self-destructive to not like it if it's a part of you.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people seem to be self-destructive.
So you've nothing negative
No.
to say about it. Right, well, thank you so much for coming along today.
Pleasure. I'm absolutely delighted.
Yeah, and we're delighted to award you the honour and patronage for your excellence in music. So I just ask everyone to remain seated for a second, and Sarah will take you back up to the council room.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.